Welcome back to another episode of the Philosophy of Chillin. I'm your host, Dunlap, and as you can see, I am joined by somebody else virtually. And this conversation is gonna be a good one, because it will basically encapsulate all of the self expectations that we have as we're trying to execute the visions that we've been given. So without further ado, let me go ahead and pass it off to my guests so that they can introduce themselves.
Okay. Hi, everyone out there and just the world, right? This is it's such a great platform that we're able to use in order to captivate so many audiences and really make impact in this world. So I'm very thankful to Miss Dunlap and just the work that she's doing and the commitment that she has and bringing voices and amplifying them all over the place. Anyways, my name is Christine Evette, and I am a speech language pathologist. I'm also a writer, a mother, a minister, and I am an author as well. And so I am just very pleased to be here today and just to offer my just words of wisdom and encouragement that God gives me to be able to speak through Him and to be able to help with anything that I can help with navigation. So, yes, that's pretty much it.
Well, we love a good intro. And thank you so much for that recognition and accolade.
Yeah.
Because as I've said before, I truly value the time and space that I've been able to foster and continue within this space and platform.
Mhm.
So it's greatly appreciated. And tidbits like that help me continue.
Yes.
So with that being said, like I was saying a little bit earlier, I I think I met you at an event, and
Yes.
I was able to kind of hear a tidbit of your story and
Okay.
kind of the projects that you were interested in and things of that sort, but I had so many more questions, and
Okay.
once
Yeah.
I actually looked at your profile, portfolio, and all the things that you've done, I was like, "Okay." It's a lot to say. Um
Yes.
and I had a hard time trying to figure out what umbrella of conversation I wanted to really focus our questions and discussion on.
Hmm.
So what I decided to do was kind of settle on the person and try to understand you.
Okay.
And then kind of branch off into what has inspired you.
Okay.
So with that being said, I wanted to look at kind of how you preface your own self expectations around the different avenues that you create through. So my first question would be, from your young age
Right.
to the age you are now,
Okay.
when you look back and you see the progression and the evolution that you have experienced, what are some things about how you have talked through your with yourself? How have you talked through the different stages of obstacles you've had to experience?
Okay. All right. All right. So I'm going to attempt to answer the question. If it goes somewhere else, that's where it was supposed to go.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
So one thing I really believe that I really believe in my heart is that we were all there was something and there was a purpose put in every one of us when we came into this earth. And one of the things that happens is as a little girl, or as a little boy or whoever you are, you begin acting out what that purpose is. And you do it with confidence if you're a confident person, or you do it with insecurity if you're an insecure person. And one of the jobs of a parent is to help to build up the confidence and the validation in the child in that direction that they're going. Because what happens is it helps to build the layers and it helps to set the destiny that someone has for their life. Unfortunately, what happens in our lives, especially with people who parents who have expectations for us, and they don't know any better. So I'm not, there's no shame, there's no guilt on mama or nothing like that because the God's given me this over the last couple months and hopefully this will inspire another parent. But whatever it is that a child is supposed to do, I really believe whatever it is that someone's supposed to do, they begin to act it out. They could be acting it out as they're playing house. They could be playing pretend. They could be playing Barbie dolls. They could be playing Cabbage Patch Kids. Those are the things that I believe someone's supposed to do. But what happens is life reroutes them, or someone else's expectations comes and begins to impact and put beliefs on them. And beliefs has the word lie in it. And sometimes these beliefs are not your beliefs. They're someone else's beliefs that they have for you, but God didn't give them those ideas about you. God gave them to you. And so when you begin to
Woo-hoo.
put on other people's beliefs on you, you begin to live a lie. And so what happened to me is when I was a child, I used to play with Barbie dolls. I used to have audiences, my Cabbage Patches and my stuffed animals. I would line them all up and I would perform for them. I would do shows for them. I would do skits for them. I played with Barbie dolls as a high schooler, 10th grade. I remember telling my friends, like I found two friends that still like playing with Barbie dolls, and I need to check on them because they probably were supposed to be writers or actors as well. But I would bring them over to the house and we would just act out for hours. But mom would be like, what are y'all doing in there? And I'm like, we're playing Barbies. No, you're not. And then you open the door and it'd be a mess. Like we would create everything, we would create the pillows, we would create everything because like my mom wasn't going to buy me all that stuff. But anyhow, I believe that creative ability was always in me. Like I would get the neighborhood kids to come put on a show. And if they decided they weren't going to, they'd get mad at me because they weren't in charge. I would just tell them you're cut then, and I would act out parts. And so I was over here acting out one part, to act out another. I would create concessions. I mean, I did it all. And that was like all before fifth grade. And then I stepped into this realm of, okay, I like playing, right? So maybe I need to be a preschool teacher, not like, oh, I can make plays because, there was never an encouragement in the arts in my family, except for I used to play the piano. That was about it. I didn't like it, but my mom did it because she said I was all over the place and that was a way to get me to be focused. And it really was. However, I just thought that I need to be with children. I need to create things. And I just wanted to be a preschool teacher. But then that navigated me into college where I went to school to be a preschool teacher. And I went into a sign language class and the sign language teacher was like, you're very creative. Maybe you should be a speech pathologist. And I was like, what's that? So she told me. And so speech pathology helped me to navigate my creativity because I would make up different ways in order to help children reach the milestones that they needed. Because I don't do things traditionally. Like I will use this puzzle right here and I would create like, okay, we're going to work on more, or we're going to work on what questions, or we're going to work on prepositions, or we're going to work on he and she. We can work on everything just with this puzzle. And so it helped me to just expand my mind and be creative. And then from there, so that's therapy, right? So that ties into the show I wrote, and it's called Therapy Ties. So all of these things, basically, God was able to even use some things that maybe the enemy was trying to reroute me to get my attention off of where I was supposed to be going. But then it helped to just serve as building layers to become this person I am, who is able to create something out of nothing. And I think that's what story writing is. It's maybe using some things that have been implanted in you and be able to create a structure that's able to uplift, educate, entertain, validate, and as well as educate people so that when people watch the things that I'm seeing, that I'm the movement that I'm trying to do is they'll help see the neurodivergency and how over 33% of the population is not they're typical, and they're not typical. They're called atypical or neurodivergent. And we're not using television to help people to see themselves in different lights. And so they can take the mask off and be who they were supposed to be, because that's what I was doing all my life. I was masking, trying to fit into the conformity of the world. But once I took the mask off, I was like, whoa, this is beautiful. Like, I don't care if anybody else validates me. I actually validate myself because I think I'm pretty cool and I like being
Yeah.
around myself. And so now I'm able to build on that and to be the person I'm supposed to be and to help people embrace who they really are. That was really a long answer, and I don't think I
That was
answered your
lovely.
question, but yeah.
That was great. That was great, actually. And it touched on a lot of the progression and phases that you experienced it.
Mhm.
And I want to dive into them because each one kind of exposed a different layer of who you were and what you
Yes,
were meant to be doing.
right.
So when you were introduced to speech pathology, is that how
Right.
you pronounce
Yes, speech pathology. Yes.
tongue twister, man? I'm telling
It
you.
is. I can't even say it sometimes. I get so embarrassed. I'm like, I'm a speech blah 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 blah. And I'm like, of course I'm not gonna say the word right,
Uh-huh. But I do it. I swear.
Yeah,
um, but anyway, when you got introduced to this form of, actually I look at it as a form of communication,
it is.
and how to improve upon it and expand it in
Yes.
ways that people register it, because
Yes.
that registration is different in so many individual ways.
Yes.
Um, with that being said, how was the education process for you and transitioning that education into teaching? What did that kind of expose out of you about yourself and how you needed to develop so that you could be a better version of an educator to your students?
So I think personally, I had a lot of learning challenges as a kid growing up. So I was not able to really comprehend. I did not read phonetically. I read only by memorization, and so I didn't understand the phonics. I remember my dad buying Hooked on Phonics. It was way before your time, girl. But there was this program called Hooked on Phonics. And it really works. Well, it didn't really work for me. So I never understood that. And then even like when I was a kid, or even as a high schooler, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and so I would come home and she'd be like, "Oh, what did you do in school today?" And I would tell her, and she's like, "Okay, we're going to do this over again." And she would make me read a sentence, tell her what I read. Read a sentence, tell her what I read. Read a sentence, tell her what I read. Because I had ADHD and I have autism as well, but neither one of those things were diagnosed as a kid because my mom provided a whole bunch of coping strategies that I didn't necessarily take to college with me. And so then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the library for hours and I was trying to study. Some of the classes came really easy to me because they were just creative type classes. But those classes that caused me to have to conceptualize, understand, process, make like all that stuff, like neurology was a class that I was basically failing. And I went up to my neurology teacher and I'm like, listen, I'm doing everything I can. I come to your classes. I studied in the library. I showed him all my notes, color coded, everything like that. And I said, I cannot do this. He's like, Christine, yeah, you failed every test. We have one assignment at the end, and I think you're going to pass that. But in the meantime, I need you to go see a psychologist, so you can get evaluated. I said, evaluate for what? He's like, I think you have ADHD. I said, what? So I never heard of this before. I remember those kids taking the little pills with their applesauce back in school. Like they would go to the nurse and they were like, oh, they're so lucky. They didn't get to eat applesauce in the middle of the day or pudding. And it was chocolate pudding. They would put their ADHD pill in. And I wanted some. But anyways, I didn't know that it was for ADHD. I just knew it was a pill. But now I understand like they had ADHD, It wasn't just a snack that was chosen for the chosen people. So yeah, I went and got evaluated and the psychiatrist said, how did you make it this far? And I said, what? He was like, you have extreme ADHD and anxiety, and you really need to be on medication. And I was like, oh, I called my mom. She's like, oh, that's not true. You're going to tell
Mama.
I know you and you don't have that. And I was like, okay, well, mom, I'm going to go to the doctor. And, I was off college or whatever. So, anyways, I handled my own responsibility, started taking that medication. I got like an A on the final exam. Okay. And like my life changed automatically because I didn't know there was something going on with my brain that I was not able to control. And I was beating myself up left and right. And I think that what happens is that, and this is like one of the premises behind the new movie that I've written, is like sometimes parents love you from an angle where they're trying to protect you, but they're really harming you. Okay. And one of the things is like yes, not identifying with something that's going on with you because it stigmatizes them because now they don't say this part, but they don't want to be seen as there might be something wrong with me and this is why you are the way you are. Or it might be if I label you, you will not be able to succeed and be the person you're supposed to be. Well, what about if that person you're supposed to be is that neurodivergent person that has ADHD, that has autism, that was meant to unlock some things that people would never unlock because they weren't able to tap into that creative mind and understand who they were and that their ideas were not just all over the place, but they were ideas that maybe needed someone to help strategize them or medication to help ground them so that they didn't go all over the place. You know what I mean? So that's helped me with dealing with my own patients. I work with children who have autism. I work with kids who have ADHD. And the biggest thing is helping them to understand that they're valuable, that they matter, and that there is a strategy in order to get them to the point where they need to be in order for them to succeed in the things that they're trying to do. And because I know exactly what helped me with reading when I learned the Wilton reading program. I'm now able to take kids who possibly never would have been able to read and break it down in this way. And it's helped me. It helped me as a reader, visualizing and verbalizing. Like the way that I read now, I visualize everything. No one taught me that in elementary school. But if I'm
Mm.
able to teach a kid who's struggling reader who can't comprehend anything, visualize what does that look like? Just make the picture in your mind. And because of that, now I see things that other people don't see in the spiritual realm because I became a visualizer. And it wasn't something I wasn't able to do. It was something that I wasn't taught to do or something that I didn't know that could actually help me with my real life. So sometimes just
Within you.
understanding, yes, understanding how to bring your spiritual into the physical world will actually help you. And so that's what I try to do with the clients that I work with and just the people who I talk to.
Oh, I love that. I love
Yes.
that. And I just wanted to sit in there for 1 minute more
Yes.
with this question because a lot of what you said truly resonates with me
Hmm.
because I've been an intellectual kid my entire life. I've been
Yes.
told that I'm smart, XYZ, ABC, but at the same time, there was a teacher that I had and I love her to death.
Hmm.
And there was one day in class, she was like, I think it was because some students were like talking trash about some other students or something. And she was like, y'all do understand that y'all are on the spectrum too, right? Like, y'all are special as well. Y'all are just on the higher level of the spectrum. So
Right.
we have to give you guys more challenging things because otherwise you would be bored and just be
Right.
doing anything. And I
Yes.
sat there and I thought about it and I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense because we had to
Yes.
get tested. Like
Yes.
the tag talented and gifted, that
Yes.
meant something. Like, yes,
Yes.
we were on the spectrum. We were just higher functioning
Yes.
individuals that needed to have other things challenge us so that we could stay focused.
Yes.
So with that being said, I wanted to ask you because I'm still in my journey of
Yes.
discovering how my mind processes things and
Yes.
how people externally are able to recognize it.
Hmm.
And one thing that I've had a challenge with is being welcoming to those external tests that identify ADHD and
Right.
XYZ.
Right.
Because once people have titles, they try to assimilate their stigmas or their stereotypes onto that individual.
Hmm.
And internally, I'm like, well, I don't need that because I can find my way around it.
Hmm.
But through your experience, I wanted to ask you, how are how have you been able to fully welcome the
Yeah.
knowledge that you've learned about yourself and still have that confidence despite the stigmas or stereotypes that others might try to put on you?
Right. So that's such a good question because and it's timely because I just realized and embraced the autism part of me. But it helped me to understand so much and to stop ruminating some of the things and maybe bad relationships I have, poor choices that I've made, just some of the self-harming things I've done. It helped me to put a almost like a category instead of saying it's just Christine being mean to herself. You know what I'm saying? Like some of the like self-harming behaviors. So one of the things that people with autism like people you've heard of people who cut, right? And it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a self-soothing thing. Well, I scratch my skin. When I get anxious, I scratch and I will scratch a hole in my skin. I've been doing this since I was a little kid. And I just realized like it's not because of the eczema, it's because of the anxiety, which triggers something. In order for me to soothe it, I scratch or I want real deep pressure. And so, like when I tell people, when I go to the massage therapist and she's like pounding in my back, and I'm like, no, go deeper. She
Yeah,
thinks
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
crazy. But I'm like paying for this deep thing. Like I will take something, a rock, and just push it on but that's another one of just having like these sensory, like discrepancies where most people are on a level and then I'm hypo. And so in order for me to get up here, I need this stimulation in order to come up to here, right? Smell. smell everything. So I'm hyper. But I can't change that. So, but this is what, so the regularities, they're not typical. And so I feel like in order for me to say, all right, let me stop diminishing this just so I can be like on a five. Let me stop diminishing this so I can be on a five. When I stop trying to diminish everything because I know that I'm neurodivergent, I begin to just say, I'm neurodivergent. And it's okay that I could smell you from a mile away, or I could sense that intention that you have before
So,
you walk in this room. Like, and I'm just taking it as like, I am a superhero. I just gotta, and I
yeah.
know exactly what my talent is, and I know why I'm being unlocked, and I know how to, like I'm finally reaching who I
Mhm.
am. And so when I tell you this, Miss Dunlap, is that once you begin to realize it, it's almost like then some of your other super senses begin to open up. The reason why we don't have is because sometimes we haven't embraced what we already have. He says too much is given, much is required. And if
Good.
we're supposed to be inquiring more, we got to accept what we already have. And if we haven't accepted
Woo!
what we already have, how do you want more to be added to you? So in order for your territory to be enlarged, right? You're going to have to
Mhm.
accept what you have and say, all right, I got this, God. Thank you so much for giving me this. I know I'm a peculiar person. There's a verse that says, you are a royal nation, a peculiar person set apart to do good works by me. So we have already been set apart. And if we don't step into our peculiarity and realize that we're royal, that we're chosen, that everybody is not like us, we are not going to get to the next part. And that's why we got to come together as a community, especially like y'all gifted, talented people. Y'all are up here. And sometimes it's like, okay, you're just hypersensitive. You see everything, right? But you're very logical. But sometimes us down here who are not so logical, so I'm not on a five, I'm on a two with logic, right? So I'm very naive. So we got to begin to help each other out because we're a community. But once we come together as a community and we see, oh, okay, yeah, she's right in the box. And you're like, oh, yeah, I mean, you're all out of the box. And then we begin to laugh about these things, but then they come together so that we're able to use each other to build, to be able to say, hey, I need a mind map. I need a strategist. Oh, let me call her. And then we're able to work together
Mhm.
better. But if you don't realize what they are and if you hide them and you try to mask them, which I read this
Mhm.
book called Unmasking Autism, and I really encourage you to read that book
Okay.
because it's just so good to understand who you are and then just
Mm.
accept it. Like I'm Black. Yeah, there's nothing I can do about it.
Facts. Facts. And I love that so much because this is, again, a reminder feeding me to
Yes,
pay attention to those details and to embrace them and to have this
yes,
energy behind them.
yes,
Um, and I appreciate it so much, which is, I guess, why I felt inclined to have this topic of conversation.
yes, yes.
Because even transitioning all of these acknowledgments
Mm-hmm,
into your creativity. Like,
mm-hmm,
yes, you understood, how you could better articulate and digest information, and you started walking in that. But
mm-hmm.
then taking that path of crossing the bridge of trying to continue elevating your creative expression
Yes,
to
yes,
modes and different avenues where other people can understand why you have the intentionality behind you that you
yeah,
do.
yes.
Um, what was that like for you taking in all of what you've experienced and stepping into that space?
Well, it was lonely. Okay. So, like, when you begin to accept who you are and you stop conforming and having other people validate you all the time, because some people, you are attached to people because they bring you validation. And so, once you step back and you say, all right, I need to learn how to validate this real person that I am, it becomes lonely because then you're like, all right, that person doesn't really desire to be around you anymore because you're not just being that people pleaser that you used to be. Right. So I would say it was lonely, but I have three kids. I have an 18, a 16, a 12-year-old, but they're like my biggest fans because they're all neurodivergent too. And so me becoming who I am is helping them to embrace who they are. And I
Mm,
and I believe that as a mother, like that's what we brought these kids in the world. They have our DNA, whether you're with somebody or whatever, they are part of you. And a lot of the things that I have seen in myself I really saw them in my son a long time ago. And then that's when I was like trying to like help conform him, try to mold him. I started this therapy center because of him, because he needed it. I started coaching because of him. I started like doing Bible studies because of him. And there were so many things, social groups. I started social groups because he's autistic. I started social groups because I knew what he needed, because I knew what I needed as a child. And so when I was able, and then he tells me, thank you, Mom, for creating this thing for me. Thank you for creating this, because I see it. And we see stuff as mothers, but sometimes we don't know how to do it. And I think it's about taking that responsibility and saying, okay, younger self, what would have been good for you at the age of 16? What would have been good for you at 12? Because your children are a replica of you, whether you like it or not. so,
That's good. That's
so
good.
a lot of people aren't even healed when they have kids. And so you bring in kids with emotional issues because you had emotional issues as a pregnant woman and as a person raising them. But we don't like to own up to our own things, that we have brought these things. So if we brought them upon our children, we need to help them with navigating it. And so that's what I really feel like this whole journey has really been for me, is just starting to see some of the things in my children, because they're still in me, and then we are actually healing together. And instead of me just pretending like I got it all together, because I don't. I did that long enough. I pretended for a very long time, and I was perfect. Like everybody, but people know like my whole story of what happened in 2020 and all that stuff. They're like, that happened to you? Yeah, it did. That mask finally came off when my husband left me, because I felt like what he did was he helped hold me together in that person, but it was necessary. The purpose of us together really wasn't my purpose for my life, but it was like the situation that the devil meant for bad, God was able to turn to good. And so even I was married for 17 or 18 years. I can't remember exactly how much, but I like look at myself and I look at pictures and I just remember, and I'm just like, I wasn't who I was supposed to be. Like I was everything he wanted me to be. And that's what happened, is when I began to not be happy being me, is when he decided, I don't like her no more. You know what I mean? And so I think that a lot of times we get into these relationships and we become what the person wants us to be. And then when we actually say, you know, no, maybe I need to look at myself, and like maybe I need therapy. And then when therapists start bringing things out in you, that person who does not want you to be fixed, because that broken one, because trauma bonding is real. And so if you were bet like this and now you're rising like this, that person's not going to be able to handle you. So, yeah.
Ooh, that's good. And I
Uh,
love that
sharks
because
don't swim with shrimp.
that
Yeah,
was
we're
a
not
good
bottom.
one.
We're not meant to be bottom feeders.
That's facts.
Yeah.
And honestly, I can see how your film, at least the reel that I saw,
Yeah.
um, all of the different levels that were impacted into it, that's exactly what I felt because of it.
Yeah.
And I know for myself, it's kind of difficult to sit down and really put what I am seeing visually to paper. So I wanted to ask you, when you started that process,
Mhm.
um, what was it like for you trying to battle what you knew you could do versus the steps you had to take to actually make it reality?
Mm. So one thing when you set out to do stuff like this, you definitely have to have a renewed mind. Because if your
Mm,
mind is not set on victory, if your mind is not set that I'm the best, if your mind is not set on I am enough, you will spend a lot of money trying to get someone else's opinion to validate what you already know about yourself, but you haven't stood on it, right? And I wasn't standing on business when I first started. So last June was when I wrote Therapy Ties, and I wrote it and I sat on it, and then I met some guy who said, "Oh, I can film this for you." And so I was like, "Oh, let's do it." I'd never been to film school. I never I wrote a book, but I never wrote no film. I've never been I had no idea. And I just pulled all these pieces together, and like the old one that I did, the old Therapy Ties is on YouTube. And I just pulled all the pieces together and I actually made it happen. And I think it was funny, and it really flowed really well. But you know what? I did not know how powerful I was then. And I was still was search because things weren't happening like this. And I'm an instant gratification person. And you can't be instant gratification and creativity when you're trying to create for the masses, right? And so I decided, okay, well, this is not moving fast enough. How about let me find a bigger producer? So I said, let me do this again. This is like 6 months later. Because I didn't believe in myself, I went and got people who would possibly believe in my project, which is not a bad thing. I think it was still like I made a bigger investment. So I spent a lot more money and I redid the whole thing. And from there, when I did it on a smaller scale, I got into film festivals and all these things. I think I did about 8 or 9. When I did it bigger and I was trying to seek validation, I have not gotten into one, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful project. I have not gotten into one film festival. And I believe what God is telling me is He's like, I want to do this work through you. Stop using other people. That's why you named your first book Adonai and I. It means the Lord and I. That's why you named your ministry Adonai and I. That's why you're naming your production company Adonai and I. So stop trying to use other people when it's Adonai and I. And once you begin to start seeing what God has put in you, you won't be adding other people to the pot. Because if it's like a 2 ingredient show, God wants to do through me. He thinks through me. In Philippians 4:13, he says, I can do all things through Christ. I said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Not I can do all things with Christ. I can do all things for Christ. Christ wants to do things through me. And I don't know what other people are attached to. So he's not saying to those people, I'm going to do it through you so that you can join with Christine. Because when he wants to make this a powerhouse, when he wants to make it powerful, there are things that he places in me. I came home from somewhere. I wrote a whole TV show one day because I did it through Christ. Anytime I do not include him in it, I struggle with the writing. I struggle with the dialogue. But when I say, all right, God, let's go, let's go. And he just puts this thing and I see the whole thing. I'll get my Barbie dolls out if I need help. And I still play with Barbie dolls. Yes, I'm 45. But if I need to start doing placement and get myself into it, I would use the Barbie dolls. But I'm just saying that for my story, I know it's doing things through Christ because I've been so people dependent my whole life. And that really created this thing of we all want to be validated, but my validation needed to come from me being a child of God, me being a chosen person, me being a peculiar nation. Those were my validate. That's enough. But when I didn't think of it as enough, all those other people I've used became idols. Because anytime you put someone else's opinion above the opinion of God, that becomes an idol in your life. And God will go and get rid of all of those things. And I believe that's why I haven't gotten to film festivals. That's why the project hasn't gotten picked up. And so now I've rewrote it again and now I made it into a feature and I'm doing it totally different. It's through Christ and I'm not using other people's opinions, nothing. I'm going to be the writer. I'm going to be the director. I'm going to be just like Tyler Perry. You know, all them credits right there because he knows who got it there. He said, nah, y'all ain't messing up what God done put in me. Like he gave me these ideas. I'm going to be the producer. I'm going to be the director. I'm going to be the actor. Whatever. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do all that. But I do believe that this is a ministry. And from here, he wants to create a platform so that I can use it to uplift people and I can show people where my hope came from. My hope didn't come from nobody on this earth. My hope came from God. And that's who got me, who will get me to that promised land.
Yeah, and I recognize that on so many different levels because even for myself, I have even told individuals that I've met, and a lot of the times when I talk,
Mm-hmm.
the voice in my head, it takes like I can tell when it's me versus
Uh-huh.
when I'm questioning, okay, I didn't come up with this.
Right, right.
It's
It's
just
so
flowing
it's
through me right
incredible.
now. And
Yeah.
everything up here is like a blank slate. So
Right, right.
I've even found myself in spaces where somebody has had to remind me of things that I've said and I just sit there and I'd be like, oh my goodness, did I really say that?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
remember any of that.
Right,
So
right.
I mention all that because this platform in itself came from that connection where I literally said, God, I don't care if I lose everything. When I say
Yes.
everything, I mean
Yeah.
everything.
Right.
Everything, material, what have you. I want to make sure that I'm walking hand in hand with you and
Amen.
doing what you've asked me to do on this earth
Yes.
while I'm
Yes.
here.
Yes.
So with that, I have found it to where these ideas just stay circulated in my head.
Yes.
And if I
Yes.
don't do anything about it, it's literally like a disservice to me. And I feel
Yes.
like I'm behind in some sort of ways when
Yes. Yeah.
really it's the action calling on to me to do it. Do it now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I put this download in you,
Mm-hmm.
execute. That's the gift I've given you. Um,
Yes. That's
so
amazing. That's
thank you.
good.
You're
That's
you're
the way
pulling
it's
all
supposed.
of this out of me.
Yes. That's what we're supposed to do. Like when we are around another believer, the Spirit of God works through us to bring out the best and brings out words, and that's why that flow is able to happen. And I will notice it in conversations where someone will say exactly what I need to say in order for, and that's the conversation, that's the flow that you are creating with your platform. And so just know that two is greater than one, right? Because when an iron sharpens iron, and so sometimes in your platform, when you're interviewing something, it might be that person like sharpens something, you're just like, and then God drops something, and then you got to say it, and then you're taking over your whole interview, and you're like, I was supposed to interview her, but just let it flow, because that's the philosophy, like of just conversation. It just flows. There's no there's no strategy to it. There's nothing. And so when things are spirit led, and if you're definitely a spirit led individual. I mean, I felt that like when I met you, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't just go up to anybody. I love connecting with other people who I know believe are chosen. And I can tell it, because I am. So like, I will just go up and I'll create conversation, because that's really what I want on my team. Because when I build my production company, I promise you, like, everybody will be neurodivergent.
Yeah, yo, I love that.
Yes, yes, because I believe that we have been so misrepresented and misunderstood, and I just want to create a place, a work environment that builds on the philosophies of God, because neurodivergent people, whether they're Christian or not, they're spirit led. And now, if they were led by Jesus, that's even better. But I believe that they are looking, and then the spirit can lead them to do things, to say stuff, and then also to be aligned. Like, if you're like, oh, I need you to do the X, Y, Z, and then you come back and be like, oh, that was even better. And then we agree with it. Like, that's because you're not doing things just for yourself. You're doing things because you're led. And when you're led, it has purpose behind it. When we're led by ourselves, a lot of times it just is looking for an applause. And that's not what I'm looking for in this life, because my applause is going to come from heaven. So I need to do my purpose on this earth so that I can get rewarded with a crown in heaven. I do not care about the applause on earth. And when I stop trying, because I was trying to conform to caring about the applause on earth. I really was. Like, I was like, and I didn't get this, and nobody liked this video. I don't care. I'll do a live, and there's 0 people on there, and I will still be as animated I am talking about all things God, because it's not about the likes here on this earth. It's about, does he like what I'm doing? Am I doing it through him? Because Christ, people didn't like him. He wasn't popular. He didn't have a whole bunch of friends. But what he had was impact. And when he walked in the room, and when he walked on things, he made an impact. And that's what I want to make on this earth.
I resonate with that. I
Yeah.
resonate with that deeply. And I wanted to ask you one more question because I know you gotta
Yes.
go.
Yes.
Um, and okay, I'm gonna ask you this one question, and then the
Okay.
last minutes, I'll pass it off to you.
Okay.
But essentially, I just wanted to ask you, just to have that foundation within your spiritual recognition and being able to speak about it so confidently. A lot of the things that we see today are spiritual beings being divided based off of the principles of religion. And I wanted to ask you, as you continue with the acknowledgement that you have of other souls, of other spiritual beings, how are you trying to make sure that you're protecting what you recognize in your own life and still creating a safe space for others as well to be welcomed by you, or to understand that there are still deposits, whether you believe what I believe or not, that can be
Yeah.
invested in you?
Right. I love that question. I think it's very deep, once again. But I think about when first of all, that there's a verse in the Bible that says God reigns on the just and unjust. He also shows no respect to persons. And as a follower of Christ, a follower of Jesus Christ, when Jesus walked on this earth, he did not just associate with believers, of people who believe him. He actually sat in the company of sinners. He actually sat and because his impact in that room is what led people to be drawn to him. And that's what I believe it is. Like, I don't push anything, even in therapy ties, even in lingo, all the things I've written. You're not going to see me push it. Even though I'm a faith-based person, my whole thing is being a light in this world. A light doesn't say, "Hi, I'm a light and I'm turning on." No, a light just comes on. You know what I'm saying? The sun doesn't rise and say, "I'm the sun. I'm coming up and I'm going to give you your day." We are
Hey,
called to be lights into this world, lights for
so
the world. We're told to illuminate in the world. And so if I'm able to illuminate in the world with what I speak, and you're able to resonate with something I said, you're going to be drawn to me. And because you're drawn to me, then I can lead you to Christ if that's so what you want to do. But it's not me going after and saying, "I'm going to use my Bible and I'm going to thump on you and tell you to come." Hey, that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be lights. And so if I see you as a soul that needs a light, if I see every person as a soul, and I connect to you in the spirit realm instead of connecting to you physically as being somebody who's a Buddhist or someone who's a Mormon or somebody who's a Catholic, then I'm able to actually let my light and let God do what he's going to do. And he will draw, he said, "I will draw all men to me." So we need, as believers, we need to stop trying to draw men to you, draw people to you, and let the spirit do it through him that lives inside of you. We're doing too much. And when we live to be a light in this world, we're living to make an impact. A light makes an impact. It does not think about it, it just does. And when we just do what our assignment was to do, which was the way that Jesus got up every morning and he said, "I am the Son of God," in his head, or prayed to the Lord. And you say, "Give me this day my daily bread." All right. When you live like that and you say, "Let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven," then you are allowing him to do the work. We just got to be obedient. And when we're obedient and we're spirit led, conversations will come up, things will come up, opportunities will arise, people will be drawn to you. And then therefore, God gets the glory, not you. So if we are doing the work, we want the glory. If God does the work, he gets the glory. And that's the difference. And that's the impact that we got to make in this world.
ooh, ooh, I love it.
Yes,
I
yes.
love it.
And it takes the load off of us. It takes the
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. We're not responsible for people's souls. We're just
Yeah,
seeds, you know? When we are in the ground, we bury things, people bury dead things, but we're seeds that were planted in people's lives. We're not to bury ourselves in the ground. We're supposed to be planted, and plants, seeds
hey,
sprout in their own time. God waters them. So we might just be a seed that plants in their life, but we weren't meant to necessarily lead them to Christ. But if we are doing what we're supposed to be and everyone is doing what they're supposed to do in the kingdom, next thing you know, they go, "This person gets some water. Over this, they get some chlorophyll. Over here, they get some fertilizer food, and then they grow." Stop forcing people to do things. God's timing is perfect. And sometimes it's just the opportunities that are happening. People have to make these decisions on their own versus being forced
yeah,
and being scared and being told that they're going to hell, because that
yeah,
is not our mission. We are supposed to be talking about the love of Jesus Christ. We're supposed to be showing the love of Jesus Christ, not over here manipulating people to be a follower, manipulating people to believe. It's supposed to come from the heart, because once it comes from the heart, it's real.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
Uh,
I love
I
Jesus,
needed
girl.
to hear
You know,
that.
we gotta talk about Jesus. We can talk about Jesus all day. Because
Hey, I was
he's
just about
clearly
to
saved my
say,
life. Yes.
literally, like, we could really be sitting here and talking
Yes.
about everything more in depth, more pulling out more intentionality, and
Yes.
we could really be sitting here all day, like you said. Um,
Right.
but you gotta go, and we have
Yeah.
more work that has to be done within this
Yes.
earth. But I
Yes.
do want to save space to let the people know that this not the last time y'all gonna see these individuals, because
Yes.
whether it's collaborating in other ways, me
Right.
helping you for your productions, you got a first
Yes.
AD right here if you need it. You
Oh,
feel
all
me?
right. Absolutely.
So, I know that this is a continuation, and it's setting a
Yes.
pace for what's to happen. With that being said, again, we can sit here and talk all day
We
long,
could. We
but
could.
I wanted to save time and space for the microphone to be passed off to you, because I like to ensure that my co-hosts, not just my interviewees,
Uh-huh.
have a section of time to be able to ask me any questions if they have any. So whether it's pertaining to this topic of conversation of self expectations and the various tidbits that we've discussed throughout, I wanted to ask you, do you have any questions for me?
Um, well, I just want to know, like, just where do you where do you get your daily hope from?
Mm. Um, wow, that's a great question. And kind of what you said earlier about it being on time. I think this question is on time for me as well because
Yes.
I've been placed in a period of my life where I have to rediscover and have that renewed mindset that you
Hmm.
mentioned,
Hmm.
towards that ultimate vision that I was given.
Right.
So to answer your question, what I am now understanding is my like daily bread and my daily hope is that recognition of the knowledge that I have of the materialistic principles and
Hmm.
um external expectations that are put off in the world,
Hmm.
and seeing that God has still chosen to put breath into
Yes.
my vessel,
Yes.
into my body.
Right.
And it's that registration has kind of been that renewal process for me because if there was so much hate uh,
Hmm.
amongst the people that have the titles that are associated to me,
Hmm.
why am I still here? With
Right.
that being said, these connections that I've been having, that I've been encountering, and that I've been growing in and planting seeds with,
Hmm.
these have purposes that I can't
Yes.
see. So it's
Yes.
beyond me to say that, oh, I'm just going to not do the things that God has placed on me to do.
Right.
No, I
Right.
have to push myself past what my physical body is trying to limit me
Yes.
and be open to saying, okay, yes, it may scare me. Yes,
Yes.
this person I may feel conflicting energy with, but I was still told to show up. I was still
Yeah.
told to be.
There we
So
go.
I'm going
Good
to walk
job.
in. So yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yes,
That's where it
very good. So that's your declaration for yourself. You record that and you start playing it every single morning because it
mm,
is, we just got to be accountable to ourselves and we got to treat ourselves like we treat other people. That word that we speak to ourselves is so powerful. It's because we speak it to other people. And that's why I record myself a lot talking to other people because I'm like, that word was for me. And so oftentimes we are giving a word, but it's really for ourselves and we got to edify ourselves with that. So my next client is here, so I got to go. And it was a pleasure. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yes, ma'am. It was a pleasure with you too. Please let the people know any last tidbits and ways that they can connect with you.
Yeah, so I have an Instagram, but that's not the way to connect with me. I really feel like the way to connect with me is on my YouTube channel. Like I'm really trying.
Mhm.
It's Adonai and I dash 2024
Mhm.
facing me, and I did a validation series, and basically I broke it up into little segments where for 90 days, or I think it was 60 days, I began speaking to myself the way that I would speak to a friend, and I that's where I got my validation from. It was just this year. And it took me a long time, but that was my secret, and I'm sharing it with the world. And so, yeah, I you can connect with me there, or my Instagram, I think, is Adonai and I as well. So, yeah, thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much for your time, and
You're
we out of here.
welcome. Okay,
Peace.
peace.